It was all fake. A make-believe life, a relationship, and love. Coming up on The Whitney Reynolds Show, we're talking catfishing. The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998, educating Chicago's children for 20 years. And the Auto Barn Mazda of Evanston and Chicago, the Auto Barn Mazda, where driving matters. Special thanks to the Illinois chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Dr. Daftari and the team at Arta Modern Dentistry, Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby's International Realty, STI Movers, Mazda, Chicago Andrea Creative, and Cellular Intelligence. Catfishing, a term used when someone fabricates who they are online. Today, we sit down with the victim of this online scheme and find out how she discovered the man of her dreams was a fraud. Also, a private detective is here to help you avoid this online mishap. You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show. Leah Shavy, an entrepreneur that built a successful business, spent many years growing her business and little time on her love life. That's when she turned to online for help and met the man of her dreams. So she thought. Let's welcome her out. Welcome to the show, Leah.
Thank you.
So I just want to kick it off today with, we heard about catfishing, what this is. It's a whole new concept that's out there. But you're not naive. And I want to lead with that because it's one of those things that people watching could say like, how did you miss this?
Right.
But I mean, you're a very successful businesswoman and you're not a naive person.
No, and this really caught me off guard, definitely. I've been in my industry for a very long time. I've had my business for a very long time. I've done a lot of philanthropic work in the city of Chicago and newly single to the dating game within the last 2 years. And yeah, just didn't really anticipate anything like this happening to me.
Well, and that's a very good point because you have put so much hard work into your business. And also, like you said, I'm newly single, that this was really, it's a new game out there with online dating.
Absolutely. I had never been exposed to online dating. I was in a long-term relationship and ended that. And and being a business owner, it's hard because I do work a lot and, I choose to work out and I'm always on the go and I'm always busy. So I don't have a lot of time for dating. So I really didn't pursue the online dating apps, if you will. This happened more Facebook Messenger. So Facebook, obviously, we use for our business and I use personally too, just to connect with my family and my friends. And this particular individual sought me out via Messenger. And I've received a lot of messages and I choose just to kind of ignore those. People see you out and about and send you messages. And I chose to ignore those. And this particular person kept pursuing me, kept sending me messages.
And he was cute, right?
He was very cute. So I was like, fine, sends the message, like, how are you? Would love to talk with you. And after a while, I kind of got a little broken down and I finally replied and that kind of opened the door for letting him into my life.
Was his picture real? Because we're going to get to the point where you actually meet him.
Yeah.
But was his initial picture and the way he portrayed himself on that initial Facebook message, was that the guy you met?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The name was real. The picture was real. Everything else, to this day, I really don't know what was real and what wasn't real. I knew that initially I didn't feel good about the whole situation and I should have kind of listened to my gut at that point. I could have prevented a lot of pain and lost time, but I really didn't lose anything else other than that. And I gained a lot more too along the way, just learning. And it was kind of a process of everything.
So he messages you, you get this message, you're like, okay, no, I'm not going to respond right away. And then eventually he sends you more and more and more.
Right. And we just start communicating. And I liked what he had to say, and he asked, if we could talk via phone.
Do you think he put context clues together based on who you are on Facebook? Like for me, if people get on my site, they're going to see I love my husband, I love my kids, and I
Sure.
love my show. I mean, boom. People
Sure.
might send me a message that tailored to kids, husband,
Of
show, that kind of
course.
thing.
That could
So do
really
you think
happen.
that's what he did?
Absolutely. I mean, he could have. You just went through and kind of previewed
Hmm.
everything, and he just knew what to say. Everything was just right on point. So,
So when did it get to the moment where he wanted to actually fly in and meet you? Because that is I keep thinking of, being single and you're in this, now you think you've met Mr. Right because he was saying all these wonderful
mhm.
things. So he's going to fly in. How did you get to that point?
Well, we talked on the phone quite a bit, actually. And text, and a lot of communication, a lot of FaceTime,
Did you
and
feel like he was your boyfriend?
I mean, I felt close right away because, again, we started communicating about our spirituality, about our
Mm.
beliefs. I mean, I'm 42 years old, and at this point, I feel like I kind of know what I want. So we kind of expedited that process, and we both felt like we knew what we wanted. And so, I mean, we shared a lot very, very quickly. And he was going to be coming to Chicago for a business meeting. It was like 2 weeks out. And he said, I don't want to wait. I want to come and meet you prior to that, which
Oh,
was
wow.
crazy. I thought, don't do that because I don't want you to waste your money if we don't have a connection. Let's just do it when you're here. And at that point, told me not to worry about finances, that he flew private everywhere.
Mm.
And I didn't ask questions because that wasn't important to me.
Right.
And so I was like, if that was what you want to do, fine, no problem. So
So he books this trip
he
supposedly on this private
his
jet.
private family's private jet, and flew in and got a hotel room, and met up with them, and it was interesting. But I felt like I kind of knew him right away because we
Yeah.
had shared so much already.
And like you said, you fast forwarded the relationship. And sometimes that happens, especially like you said, you're at a time in your life where you're ready to find the right guy.
Absolutely.
There's no reason to, make small talk at this point.
No, and I trusted him. My ex-boyfriend was so loyal, and
Hmm.
he was a very, very good man. So I just kind of I'm a small town girl from Minnesota, and I just really trusted that this person was who he said he was and what he said he was. Which, as the story unfolds, we see that. I mean, I really don't know.
So he comes in
Yeah,
and he flies in on this private jet, which we later learned is probably a non existent jet.
exactly.
And you don't just roll around in normal style. He has
No,
a limo.
he had a driver. He asked me to bring on a driver that a friend of mine, so owns a chauffeur company, hired him for the whole time that he was here, essentially. So money was being thrown around, so things
Was
seemed
any of
legit.
it yours?
No,
Okay.
no,
So at this point, it's his own cash. So you're thinking this story's still legit. Did you ever do any research on this guy?
we really kind of did. Everyone did help me with background checks and whatnot, and nothing really pinpointed that he wasn't who he said he was.
But it
So
didn't necessarily say like bright lights, here I am. Yeah.
exactly. So there was nothing to really verify either way.
When was it that everything came to a halt and you knew that you had been catfished?
I mean, it just kept getting more challenging. He was very ADD, could never stop. Everything was just always on the go, and we were always looking for the next thing. He was researching
Mm.
homes, and everything was just happening so very, very fast. And I physically got very, very sick. And I was on a ton of different medication. Ended up
Mm.
going to the hospital. My white blood cell count was like 18,000. And I think it was my body's way and my mind, everything of saying, this is not the right guy for you. This is not
Mm.
healthy for you. And I kind of chose to ignore that because he was saying everything else, that we wanted to have children. And he was like all
Everything you
in.
wanted to hear.
Everything I wanted to hear and I was ready to hear. And
Mhm.
he was very persuasive, very convincing. Every detail was down to where you really had to question, how can someone make this up?
And that's what I want to go to. Once you found out, so he ends up leaving town,
Yes.
writing this extreme love letter of things that y'all would do together.
Extreme,
And
like
very, I mean, it's over the top. Like,
got me the ring, and each ring had a different meaning.
Mm.
Love
Is
and
that the actual
integrity. This
ring?
is the actual ring. We
Oh,
were laughing
my.
that we were saying we're glad there was not one that was for honesty.
Yeah, no kidding. So now I want us to get into where you're at, because this guy was a total fake.
A complete fake. Obviously, block, delete, all of that. I'm a lot more cautious now on who I allow into my circle.
How did you know though? That's what I want to know. Is like, when was it that he just fell off the face of the earth?
Yeah, and then he called from Florida and then asked for my credit card information. I mean, he wanted my social security number. He wanted for me to be power of attorney so he could help with the business. There are a lot of things that just didn't add up. And then looking back, when we're reflecting upon it, I'm like, okay, that was making sense what he was trying to do.
Do you think he was priming you for a bigger situation?
Absolutely. And I mean, where could he go with this? We either had to buy the house, he had to buy the ring. There was a next step. He was introduced to people. I mean, there was going to be a next step for him. So he knew he couldn't go any further at that point.
So once you got to that point, your intuition kicked in and you kicked basically out. You said, okay, done.
Done.
And at that point, he knew the jig was up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Did you ever call him and say, why did you pick me? Why did you do this?
No, but I believe that he does this. I'm very grateful for the time that I did have because I went through a lot of healing through it as well.
Right.
And a lot of self-reflection. I, kind of looked at myself a little bit more and got more in touch with my spirituality through all of it. But I mean, I lost a lot of weight during the whole process, and I really just should have listened to myself because I didn't feel good along the whole journey.
Well, this is a very powerful story. This is one of those where you turn what you went through into helping others.
Absolutely.
Because it could have ended very drastically different.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's important is this online culture of lies and people not being who they are. It can easily happen. And, to have you sitting here today telling us your story is just a reflection of that because it happened very fast.
Yeah.
And like we said, it could have ended very different.
Right. And if it seems too good to be true, it usually is, and I keep my circle tight and small, and you are a lot more cautious and you are a lot, more leery of people until they prove differently.
Well, thank you so much for being brave enough and coming on and telling your story.
Thank you for having me. I hope that it helps.
This is a common story for so many, and we wanted to hear from you. It's now time for our viewer's voice, and this week's question is, have you been lied to online?
So I sold a watch on eBay, and it got unfortunately sent as a box of rocks that weighed the exact same. So that wasn't super fun, but that was the one time when I got something more or less lied to on the internet.
So I haven't personally been catfished online, but one of my friends in high school was. He was actually dating someone for a year, and he only talked to her on the phone, and then he found out that it was a couple of girls pretending to be someone, and they looked nothing like the pictures. So he was shocked, and I think everyone was shocked. So that was his story, and it was pretty crazy.
So I know multiple people that donated to this foundation that they thought was going to be for setting up water in villages, but I guess it wasn't really verified, or they didn't check fully into it, and it ended up being a scam, and the person in charge just kind of pocketed the money and wasn't really heard from again. So that's the main thing that I think of when asking about someone being lied to.
Get social with us. Make your voice heard. Submit your video on WhitneyReynolds.com. Getting high on lies. Yes, you heard me right, and that is a thing. Dr. John Duffy, a psychologist, is here to explain more. Welcome to the show, Dr. Duffy. Now, you're a psychologist, and what do you have to say about what happened with Leah?
Well, thank you for having me. What Leah went through, a lot of people go through. So when we hear catfishing, and there's been a lot of talk about it in the last 5 or 6 years, we make this presumption that, the victim is somebody who's naive, who has no idea what's going on, right? Is deeply emotionally needy. But you hear from Leah's story, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes the person doing the catfishing is just exceptionally clever, bordering on sociopathic a lot of the times.
What does that mean for that word that people are like, okay, what does sociopathic mean?
Yeah, so it really means kind of being willing to press against social mores and norms and do something that is well beyond what most of us would be willing to do. Most of us, when you listen to Leah's story, you listen about this man, most of us would think, I would never do anything like that. Not that we don't misrepresent each other in little ways in relationships, especially early on. We present the best of ourselves.
I'm always a little taller on my ID.
There you
Yeah,
go, like that, right? But it's not. It doesn't go so far as to wholly misrepresent everything about yourself in order to manipulate and hurt somebody else in their
Someone
life.
that is a sociopath, is that a disorder?
Yeah, that is absolutely a psychological disorder born of a whole lot of early unmet psychological needs. And we could go on for days about what is going on in the psyche of somebody who is catfishing. But the important thing for somebody who is a victim to this to recognize is to listen to that voice in your head that says, something doesn't feel quite right about
And
this.
thank goodness she did, because luckily that kicked in before, money could have been taken or
Absolutely.
all that kind of stuff. So going back to this person that's doing the catfishing,
Yes,
do people get a high off lies?
absolutely.
Why is that?
Because they find, in my experience, they find that there's nothing else in their life that gives them that feeling, that makes them feel competent, resilient, strong. And so this is something where power and control is a big part of their lives. And they can exert almost total power and control in somebody's life. Look at Leah's story, coming out of nowhere in the course of a couple of days.
Wrote into her. That's the craziest
Right.
part. Like, he was seeking her.
Right, and if he wasn't going to be successful with her, which he wasn't, clearly he moves on to the next woman because those needs are still unmet and he still wants that power and he still wants that control.
So if you are that person and you're having these power issues and you find yourself maybe being a sociopath, what do you do?
So my bias is seek out somebody who does something like what I do. Learn about yourself. Find out what drives this in me. Why am I drawn toward this type of destructive behavior that in the end will ruin not just somebody else's life, but mine as well.
Right, because this pattern's not going to lead to anywhere. It's going to be the next.
Exactly. And there's really, in the end, having known a couple of people who've done this, very, very little real fulfillment in any of this. The only fulfillment really is in the connection that you get in those spaces in between when you first meet somebody and you feel like, oh, maybe something genuine is happening there.
Right.
But once the manipulation really kicks in, then no longer do you feel good about yourself.
And the people that have been catfished, what do you say to them? How do they move forward?
Yeah, it's so tough because your sense of trust and safety and financial security is so wildly violated that really the way to move forward is cautiously and to really pay attention to that voice. Leah talked about it a little bit, that voice in your head that says, this doesn't sit quite right with me, so I'm gonna pause here. Even if it means I'm not gonna get out of this relationship altogether, at the very least I'm gonna pause here and consider what I'm doing. And does this make sense? Does the pace of it make sense? Does the story make sense?
Right.
And give yourself the gift of the pause.
Love that. The gift of the pause.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
John Frye, a private detective, or in today's term, a fisherman, is reeling in these online catfish who are scheming people out of money, retirement, and love. He is here with the story. Hi, Private Detective John. Welcome to the show.
Greetings. Thank you.
We have our first ever private detective on the show, and we want you to tell us how we can be safe from all this catfishing that we've heard about today.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. I'd be happy to. Let's first of all talk about the rudimentary cause of what the heck is catfishing. That this is a criminal perpetrator that's making the rounds to try to dominate someone and get a hold of someone for monetary reasons, sexual reasons, or some other strange reasons beyond our understanding.
And you've seen this a lot.
Quite a bit. It's an epidemic. So I champion you for bringing this up because I'm going to tell you, this is only the beginning of what's happening, especially with social media and the advent of computers.
Now, you've been a private detective for years. Why is it just now coming up, this catfishing? Why is it exploding?
Well, because like I said, there's a lot of computers out there, a lot of people on social media, smartphones, everything. This is a very good, strong way to communicate with people very quickly and very effectively. And that's why they're taking advantage of our good faith system. As Mom and Dad always told you, don't do anything that's too good to be true. So we dismiss that sometimes in our theory and our feelings. And what do? We get on social media, we look into something, and we're like, wow, this is wonderful. He's wonderful, she's wonderful. A big opportunity, something's on sale, or someone's got a great job for me. And they take the bait, and all of a sudden, they get heartbroken or they get broke over it.
So you've actually seen some cases where people have lost some major money from online schemes.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, not only with broken hearts, broken bank accounts as well.
And people are calling your office because this is happening to them now?
Absolutely. It's like I said, Whitney, it's an epidemic.
You said something earlier that really struck me, that sometimes these criminals are so smooth, you'll never see your money again.
That's the unfortunateness of it. Yeah, you won't, because they're very, very smooth and collective. These are like reverse Ponzi scam artists. At first, they'll come into your life making lots of promises. They're attractive, they're assertive, they're talkative, they're nice and all warm all over. And then they'll spend a little money, but they'll get a lot of money at the end. They'll start gaining trust in you, and then they will burn you.
Oh, and once it's taken, it's gone.
It's gone. And when these crimes are perpetrated, it's not very easy for you to go to the police because, get this, 70% of people who get victimized by these crimes, they never call the authorities because they're embarrassed. Or they don't even call friends and family because they're heartbroken or they're broke and they're embarrassed. They were so gullible to take the bait.
What do you tell people that call you? What do you end up doing for them?
Well, prudence is very important. When someone's telephonically calling you, because that happens a lot. Hey, is this Whitney Reynolds? Yes.
Yes.
They'll record that and they'll dub that into a tape. When someone calls you, hey, is this John Frye? Maybe.
Oh.
What?
So you're saying people are like recording our voices?
Yep. Okay, again, good faith system. You and I and the general public, we pay our bills, we pay our taxes, we're good to our kids and our family, and we follow being a conformist in life. So these people are non-conformists and are taking advantage of our good faith.
And let's just go back to when you say yes online, if someone's trying to catfish you, they might not be needing that yes right now, but they use that down the road to get money?
Absolutely, absolutely. A case in point, I'll tell you, there was a gal that I investigated, or four, I should say. She met a man online who was from England, and he had a beautiful accent. He was handsome with one child, and she fell for this guy. He was an oil rig, owned a company, and he was worth millions, but he needed $16,000 to do a deal and close a deal, and she ended up giving him the $16,000.
Wow.
But he never came.
He never did. And he probably did not look like that picture. He probably was not that person.
Absolutely.
Oh my.
Well, people, they want to romanticize the situation by thinking that, that this is a beautiful situation now in my life. I met this man, I met this woman, oh my gosh, they're so attractive and they're warm and they're wonderful and they're wealthy and they want to come into my life. And, they have illusions of grandeur. And they're so afraid, they want it to be true. Because remember, we're all hedonists.
Right.
We seek pleasure and we avoid pain. And people want the truth, not the inconvenient truth, they want the truth.
So leave our viewers with this. As we round out this show that's very eye-opening, what would you tell people to do to stay safe?
I don't want them to be overzealously paranoid. To be prudent is very important. But follow your gut instinct, the first instinct, okay? Because in primal times, in caveman times, the fear factor and our own sensibility tells us if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Don't be a person who's, a glass is half empty. You could still be a person whose glass is half full, but be prudent, check it out, tell people and your friends what you're getting involved with. Use the internet to your liking. Hire someone like me if it's, feasibly possible, financially possible. And look into the facts to see if it's relative or really true.
Look into the facts. I like
Absolutely.
that. I like that.
Do
Follow
your own due
gut.
diligence.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for
on.
having me.
Today's topic is one that does not just apply to dating. It can be any type of false interaction online. Make sure to stay safe and wise when surfing the web. And for all you parents out there, educate your kids on internet safety. For more information on this show or for tips on how to stay safe online, visit WhitneyReynolds.com. Go beyond the interview with our 52-week guide of inspiration. The book goes deeper with the stories you see right here on The Whitney Reynolds Show. To order your copy for $12.95 plus shipping and handling, go to WhitneyReynolds.com/store. The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998, educating Chicago's children for 20 years. And the Auto Barn Mazda of Evanston and Chicago, the Auto Barn Mazda, where driving matters. Special thanks to the Illinois chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Dr. Daftari and the team at Art of Modern Dentistry, Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby's International Realty, STI Movers, Mazda, Chicago Andrea Creative, and Cellular Intelligence.